Your life will include problems. Your business life will include problems. You can be guaranteed of that being true. And today we're going to talk about 5 kinds of business problems that I've faced in my career as a business owner that you'll probably face similar ones in your business career. And maybe by listening to these problems, it can help you to not have to deal with that problem, or if you do, to have some ideas of solutions to deal with it. So this is Randy Kirk, Small Business Daily. And yesterday we talked about the top 5. You can go back and visit yesterday's video. That's an easy thing to do. I think that you will enjoy the video from yesterday where I talked about the top 5 things I've dealt with as an owner. Today, we'll start with number 6, and we'll talk about 5 more. Number 6 would be a failure on my part or on the part of my staff, but I'm the president, so the buck stops with me. A failure to do proper research into a new direction for the company or for the initial starting of the company. When you start up a new company or you start up a new product or you go off into a new direction with the company, say a new distribution channel, you need to really do the research to make some decisions about how much money you're willing to risk and how much time you're willing to risk in order to go in those new directions. So whether it's a company, a product, a distribution channel, hiring an entire new group of people because you're going to grow the business rapidly, not doing enough work to make the right decision. So I was able to purchase one time a Halloween costume business for free. Well, almost free. So I had to pay for the inventory. I had to hire the president for a year. But basically for the branding, for their cataloging, for everything they were doing, I got it for free. And I did some research into the Halloween costume business, and it seemed like an okay business. And we sold, right off the bat, we sold JCPenney's and Walmart and Kmart and Toys R Us. We had real good orders from some of the top companies in the country, plus lots of orders from the small costume companies around the country. So we had the orders. The research that we didn't do is that Halloween is an adult business. Yeah, I know we think it's for kids. No, the Halloween parties where people spend money on costumes is adult parties. And what happens is that Halloween only happens on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. People don't go to big parties on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We bought the company and the Halloween of that year was going to fall on a Tuesday. So we got phone calls from JCPenney and from Sears saying they wanted to return the costumes that they didn't sell. It wasn't in the contract. We didn't have a guaranteed sale contract with these people. What they said was, if you ever want to do business with us in the future, you need to take the costumes back that we didn't sell. Well, in every case, we were able to convince these companies to hold on to these costumes for the next year, but we had to give them very long-term dating and a discount in order to get them to do that. So my failure to research the industry well enough resulted in a really big first-year failure. And in fact, if you go back and look at yesterday's video where I talk about missing an entire payroll on a Friday in 1989, then that was the reason why, is because all of the money we were expecting from Sears and from Penny's and from these other companies wasn't going to come in. And so there was no way for us to make the payroll. So that was an existential issue that almost killed my company. The company survived for 17 more years, and then I sold it. But that particular weekend, I was pretty sure the company with 100 employees was going to be history as of the next week. So you want to make sure that you do proper research into the channels of distribution that you want to enter. If you want to go international, you're going to start exporting your products or your services. That takes a huge amount of resource and a huge amount of surprises that you may not be expecting, but you can definitely do a lot of research before you go that direction. You're going to start importing from various countries. That takes a lot of research. There's quality control issues. Even today in China, if you don't have a quality control person checking the quality control person at the factory, if you don't have somebody at the dock that's checking the quality of the quality control person at the factory, you're probably going to get some really bad product. So do the research. Whatever business you're thinking about going into, go into detailed research, or you may find yourself in really significant trouble. So that would be another big problem that I faced several times in my career that you want to do. Take advantage of my knowledge, my background, my experiences, and make sure you do the research. So for number 7, it's going to be accounts receivable collections. So maybe you don't have any accounts receivable. Maybe everybody pays you cash. Maybe it's all by credit card. Maybe you're online on Amazon and all your money comes in from Amazon. Those are great businesses. My consulting business, I get paid in advance. Unfortunately, sometimes I'm a softie and I let people go a couple of months and then all of a sudden I've got an accounts receivable issue. But if you're a manufacturer, a wholesaler, an importer, a service provider, you are probably allowing people to borrow money from you called accounts receivable. Well, you can get clobbered by accounts receivable. If you're not prepared for the recession, if you're not prepared for a cash flow problem that's a national or regional issue, if you're not paying attention to industry trends, sometimes it has nothing to do with the national situation. It can be only your industry is contracting or having a problem. There's a recession in your industry. Or again, let's take the current situation where there's where there's import problems. Well, if you can't get the product, then maybe your business goes out of business. And I owe you, and I owe this guy, and I owe somebody else. That's an accounts receivable problem for wholesalers and manufacturers who are supplying that individual. If you are a service provider and you are doing somebody's taxes, or you're doing somebody's bookkeeping, or you're providing printing, or whatever it is, whatever kind of services you're providing, and you're providing accounts receivable, to do that, any kind of recession in your area, or some kind of a national recession, or just maybe it's even the individual company. So there was nothing wrong with the bicycle business when Schwinn went out of business, when they went bankrupt, owing me multiple, lots of commas. So it can just be an individual problem, an individual company. Kmart, you can think of so many that have gone bankrupt over the last many years. So one of the ways you want to avoid losing your company over that is by not having too much accounts receivable by one company, and by staying on top of your accounts receivable. If you're not staying on top of your accounts receivable, it can come up and bite you very quickly. So making sure that you have great methods and processes and procedures for dealing with accounts receivable collections, make sure you're getting your collections in, making sure that you're quick to get jumping on someone who's behind. Those are all things you can do to resolve the issue. But the number one thing I see people doing is they've got one client who's 30, 40, 50% of their business, and that client is on accounts receivable, and they're giving them 45 days or 60 days to pay, and all of a sudden there's a problem, and then the company's gone. I mean, just like that. You can't collect that receivable, you can't pay your bills, and your history. So accounts receivable is number 7 on my list. Number 8 on my list is overspending. And boy, it's so easy to do, and it's so easy not to see it. So I may have told this story before on another video. I apologize if I've done this, but I had an individual who I wanted to come in and run my company. I don't really like being president. I like marketing. I like product development. I like to develop the company, but I don't want to really run it. But unfortunately, I've ended up running all my companies. But I had this chance with my manufacturing business, and I had this friend that I'd known for years, and he was in between jobs, and I said, come on, run my company. And he came in and he says, okay, let me take a look. Well, he spent 3 days talking to my employees and looking at my books and doing all this stuff. And at the end of those days, he said, "Can I sit down and have a really heart-to-heart talk with you, Randy?" And I said, "Sure." And he says, "Well, do you like luxuries?" And I said, "Well, in my life, I've owned some nice cars, and I've always thought I'd like to have one of those houses with the columns, But no, I'm not. Yeah, sure. Like anybody else, I have some areas of my life where maybe I spend for luxuries." He goes, "No, I mean business luxuries." I said, "Well, no, I think I run a lean, mean fighting machine." And he's like, "Well, let me show you something." He laid out in front of me what he believed was $170,000 a year of overspending. $170,000 a year. Now that caught my attention. I had 2.5 artists. He thought I could get by with 2. I had 1.5 bookkeepers. He thought I could get by with 1, because I also had a full charge. So he thought I could get by with a full charge and 1 bookkeeper. Well, right away, you can add that up. That's some pretty significant amounts just by making those cuts. Well, the truth is I made the entire $170,000 in cuts, and I never missed them. I mean, I missed the people, but I didn't need the $170,000 that I was spending. I didn't need to be spending that amount of money. And no, I'm sorry, he didn't come to work for me. But I wish he had. But that may happen to you. What happens is over time, you add positions, or you add expenses, you add advertising, you add trade shows, you add software, you add equipment purchases. You adding these things, and you're never going back to square one. So there's something called zero-based budgeting, which I now do all the time. I always go back to zero. What don't I need? What can I get by without? Or what do I absolutely need to go forward? And what is really, truly a luxury? So this would be something I encourage you to do once a year at least. Take a look at your budgets and say, is anything I'm doing? Get a third party in, get a consultant in, have the consultant come in and take a look. Maybe they'll suggest that there's a couple of places where you could cut back. I don't know if you can save $170,000 a year, but even if you saved $17,000 a year, believe me, you'd be happy, right? So that's overspending. Can be a company killer. Can certainly obviously cost you. That was $170,000 I was taking home to my family. So that's why overspending matters. All right, let's look at number 8. Number 8 is such a big deal that I recently wrote a book about this with my friend and CPA and CMA, Shayla Chamberlain. The book is called Making Money Out of Thin Air. And the problem is not having proper accounting. What do I mean by proper accounting? Proper accounting means that I'm accounting for all the money that's coming in. I am accounting for all the money that's going out. I'm accounting for all the product that's coming in. I'm accounting for all the product that's going out. I'm accounting for all of the payroll that I'm creating, all the people that I'm paying. I'm accounting for all the expenses related to payroll. I'm accounting for the potential for future taxes. I'm accounting for everything. I'm accounting for my cost of goods sold compared to what I'm selling them for, so that I know what my margins are. I'm doing all kinds of accounting. And then once I know what my accounting is, I'm creating budgets so that I can stay within budgets. And then the budgets tell me in advance if I've got a problem. If I'm not meeting those budgets, I know that I need to make adjustments. And I can look at some of these issues now, and I can compare them to industry standards. If the industry standard is 50% margins and my margins are 35%, 15% of my take-home pay is evaporating. How do I get my margins back to 50%? Is that by finding better suppliers and better raw material costs or whatever in order to get my costs down? Or is that by raising my prices? But somehow I should be able to get to industry standards. It is possible that for a time I might be under industry standards just because I want to be low cost. Maybe I'm trying to buy market share, but over time I should be able to get industry standard margins or have a very good reason why not. So that's accounting problems. Well, accounting problem, I had a situation years ago where I thought that the company was going to make, these aren't the real numbers, but let's say I thought the company was going to have a $300,000 profit on $5 million in sales. But instead I had $150,000 profit on 5 million in sales. Well, that's a big difference. And I couldn't find it in the budgets. I couldn't find it anywhere. Long story short, it turned out to be scrap. I wasn't accounting for my scrap. Okay. If you're not accounting for your scrap and your employees are not properly handling the scrap, which was true in my case, then you can end up with, in 1 year, on 5 million in sales, $150,000 problem. I obviously solved that problem quickly and made sure that my employees were accounting for every pound of scrap, but it cost me $150,000 to learn that lesson. So you should be accounting. You should be accounting. If you're a retailer, how many people are coming in the store every day? What's their average ticket? How can you improve the average ticket that they're spending when they're in the store? If you're a service provider, what is the average invoice that you're getting from your average client? Is there a way to increase that by adding on additional services? Account for everything. If I'm a service business, so say I'm a CPA, what is my cost of my employees' time compared to what I'm charging for my employees' time? How much of my employees' time is going to administration as opposed to specifically working for my clients? There are so many things to account for. Pick up a copy of Making Money Out of Thin Air on Kindle. I think it's $2.99 or something. So it's a very affordable purchase. So doing great accounting matters. It can be all the difference between making a $75,000 a year and making $150,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 a year just by doing your accounting properly. Now we're going to go on to number 10. I wrote a book on this too. It was my worst selling book ever. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with it. The title of the book was Bicycle Dealer's Guide for Getting Rich in the Recession. I would think that that would be a great selling book, but it wasn't. Nobody wanted to buy it. And every other book I ever wrote for the bicycle industry, and I think I wrote 4, all of them sold like crazy, but that one did not sell. Nobody wants to plan for the recession. Nobody wants to think about the next recession. And right now we're in this boom. Even with COVID, we're in this boom. And you read so many people talking about there's never going to be another recession, or it's going to be 20 years from now or 12 years from now. There is going to be another recession. We haven't figured out how to eliminate recessions. Or if it's not going to be a recession that's going to be nationwide or worldwide, it may be in your industry or it may be in your neighborhood. Okay, maybe you were relying on fracking and fracking isn't going to be a thing anymore. In fact, I happen to be a big Elon Musk fan. I think that all energy is going to be electricity. So if you're in an oil town, if you're in a gas town, if you're in a fracking town, if you're in a nuclear town, whatever, it's all going to be electrical. So if you're in towns that depend on those industries, you could have a regional or a local recession. Texas has had many of these. Oklahoma has had many of these types of recessions before, where it's very regional. So you got to plan for the recession. Not planning for a recession can kill your company just like that. I have learned one big thing about planning for a recession, and that is cut your labor quickly. I know you like them. I loved my employees. That was the most fun part about having a large company, was having 100+ employees. They were my friends. They were my family. It was fantastic having all those employees. But when the recession hits, you got to cut that employee. You got to cut quickly. You got to do it mercilessly, okay? Because that is how you're going to die. You may die from accounts receivable. So that's number 2. You got to go collect your accounts receivable fast. The first one to pick up the phone and start getting those accounts receivable in when the recession hits is going to be the survivor. Don't just take money. Take product back. Take in kind. Do whatever you have to do to get your assets back at the beginning of recession, because the longer it goes, the more of your clients are going to go out of business and you're never going to collect that money. So that's a huge one. Number 3, stop your future orders. Unless you're positive that you're going to need that product, call the supplier right now and say, hey, don't ship. Okay. Having massive amounts of inventory and no way to pay for it is another sure way to create all kinds of problems for yourself. Now, yeah, I've written articles, lots of articles. I think you can find them in When Friday Isn't Payday. I've written lots of stuff about how to deal with suppliers in a situation like that. So it is possible to work those issues out with your suppliers, but it's better not to get yourself into the position. So when you see the recession is really going to happen, stop those future orders. Make sure you're not going to get just slammed with product that you can't move. The other thing about if you're future oriented and you're really looking at what's happening in the world and you believe that there's a recession that's going to pop up 3 months from now, by the way, the stock market is a predictor. If the stock market drops by 40%, you can be pretty well assured that you're looking at a recession 6 months from now. So if the stock market drops by 40%, that's a very good time to start thinking about how should I prepare for a national or a worldwide recession. There's other predictors. I know people that count trucks, how many trucks there are on the road as a good evidence. Well, there's plenty of statistics you can go find on how much of the trucking industry, what percentage of it is being utilized at any time. Same thing for trains. You can look at commercial property percentage of fill. So once you start to see some commercial property opening up, that's a good evidence that there's a recession coming. So there's some things you can do to predict the next recession. Well, the book's goal that I wrote about recessions, the book's goal was to talk about how you should build cash before a recession, because you can use the recession to purchase the assets or the equipment or the other elements of somebody else's business, or maybe the entire business, when the recession catches them unawares. So you can grow your business cheaply during a recession if you've put aside cash in preparation for the recession. So there's another suggestion for you, how to turn a problem into something that has a very nice rainbow at the end, the silver cloud, okay, or the silver lining around the dark cloud. So, but preparation for recessions is certainly certainly a big problem I've faced in my lifetime that can be extremely detrimental to your business. So there's your 10 problems. You look at yesterday's 5, today's 5, that gives you 10 problems that I've faced in my lifetime. Some of the solutions for those, some of the things to watch out for. I hope this has been valuable to you. If it has been, please hit the like button, and we'll see you tomorrow on Small Business Daily.